Welcome back to Pursuing Justice. I'm Harriet Hendel. We began a series of podcasts last month where we were talking about the impact of prison on children when one or both parents are incarcerated. Amy Friedman, a writer and an activist from California, was one of our guests. She created a club for high school students called POPS, Pain of the Prison System, a club which offered a safe place to share that intimate fact, having a parent behind bars. Today, 5 million kids have a parent in prison. Thanks to Amy, I will be speaking with 4 young adults who are all too familiar with the many challenges of staying connected to a mom or a dad in a correctional facility. Over the next few weeks, we will meet these very special guests, each of whom have handled their situation differently. Now we welcome Stephen Montoya. Stephen, it's great to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. On our last podcast, we spoke with someone that you know pretty well, Caron Benson. What do the two of you have in common?
So Karan and I, we both work for this organization called Echoes of Incarceration. And what Echoes of Incarceration is it's a group of young kids between the ages of 15 to 21. And they all have something in common in which we've all been impacted directly by mass incarceration. We've all been children of previously or currently incarcerated parents. And with this group, what we learn how to do journalism and activism to bring knowledge to the community about how mass incarceration of the parent can affect the family, and especially the child, during the time that the parent is incarcerated, and the trauma that comes even after the parent has already been released.
Uh-huh. And how long have you been involved with Echoes of Incarceration?
I've been involved with Echoes of Incarceration since 2008.
Wow, it's a long time. How old were you when you began your involvement with them?
I believe I was between the ages of 15 and 16.
Okay, so you were pretty young. All right. And what was the reason that you became involved?
So the reason I became involved with Echoes is, again, I'm the son of a previously incarcerated mother. My mom got incarcerated when I was 5 years old and got released shortly before my 18th birthday. And I was going through a really bad time. I used to get bullied a lot in school, especially because I went to a school where people that were my classmates in kindergarten ended up following me up until 8th grade, and then that's when I started high school, and it was different. But for the majority of my academic career, most of the kids that were with me in kindergarten followed me. And my mom's parole officer came to visit me when I was in first grade to explain to me the situation as to where my mom was. And I didn't understand what was going on at the time. They used way too many big words for me to understand at that age. I didn't know what incarcerated meant. So, but apparently when I got back to the classroom, one of the classmates of mine knew what incarcerated meant. So a rumor started to go around as to my mom's a criminal, my mom's in jail, Steven's going to grow up to be a criminal just like his mom. And I ended up getting into a lot of fights. I ended up getting into one that ended up getting me into some problem with law enforcement. And since I was very young to be charged, the judge came up with an idea to recommend me to this group that had just came out during that time, and they were working hand in hand with this other group called Osborne Association. So Echoes was just starting out. They hadn't even filmed any documentaries yet. They were just starting with the idea. So the judge recommended me to the program, and I joined, and I started to see that I was among a group of kids that were also in the same situation as myself, and I started to learn, and I've been with it ever since. I'm now considered a counselor within the group.
That is just wow. Isn't it incredible that one turn in your life towards a group like this, whether it's Echoes or it's Pops, can make that much of a difference? Where do you think you'd be had that never happened?
So I was very lucky to meet Echoes because Echoes gave me an outlet as to how to release the pain of the trauma of having one. Because my biggest thing with having an incarcerated parent was feeling like I was the only one in the world that was going through that. It felt like I literally had nobody else to talk to. It felt like the people that I was assigned to talk to didn't really care or understand the situation. So it felt like I was always kind of just talking to myself, trying to get somebody to understand. So the biggest thing for me was just knowing that now I'm among a group of kids that are in the same situation. And see, and the difference with my mom was, even though my mom did a lengthy sentence, there was always that light at the end of the tunnel that we knew my mom was going to eventually come out.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Other kids in this group I've met have parents that are serving life sentences, so they
Yeah,
never have that. They will never have that hope of ever coming out.
that's right.
Um, so just seeing that there were kids that were going through the same or even worse humbled me a lot. And so to answer your question, even with that group there, I was still, I was still very naive and went through a lot of things that I didn't need to go through. Um, but I feel like if it wasn't for this group, I probably most likely would have ended up serving a long sentence myself if I
Mm.
hadn't had like a good environment to surround me.
That's quite a statement. So they have made really it's like a life changing impact on you, and that's wonderful. That is wonderful. Caron mentioned the Osborne Association also. So I think that was they were responsible for helping him get into Sing Sing to do that film that he did with visiting his dad for the first time. So, and he explained to me the difference between Pops, which is more of a club at school taking place at lunchtime, and Echoes of Incarceration. How do you see do you know much about Pops, and how do you see the two organizations?
I don't. I, I honestly don't know a lot about it, but I know enough to, I guess, to speak on what I do know. So as you had mentioned, Pops is an in school program that meets during lunchtime for the kids to pretty much associate with kids that are going through the same. So um, Echoes is different in the sense that it's not during school. I mean, yeah, it's going around like the program Echoes of Incarceration goes through the entire year, whether it be academically or just the calendar year in total. But but what they tend to do is when they know that the members are in school, because the members tend to be teenagers. When they know that they're in school, they meet about 2 to 3 times a week throughout the school year, and then they have summer camps. So as soon as school is over, the on the first week of July till the first week of August, they have a camp where they pretty much show the training that the senior members, such as myself and Karan, the senior members go through the training all year round. For those that can't do the whole year round or want to learn how they can qualify to join the senior crew, they go through a training camp that's for the summer, which is called the summer liberation camp.
Hmm.
Um, and what they do is within 5 to 6 weeks, they teach them everything that we learn in a year round of like um, advocacy work as well as journalism on the topic of mass incarceration. They teach them that.
Hmm.
So
That's
um,
great.
yeah, and they do it in a certain amount of time for like from the 1st of July to the 1st of August. Though that whole time they break the camp up between advocacy days and journalism days, and they teach them how to do So by the end of the camp, they come up with 3 films focusing. Yeah, they come up with 3 films focusing on the topics of mass incarceration, or now they started to add a lot of immigration as well as relationship abuse. But the main thing has always been incarceration. So
Incarceration, right. Now,
yes,
how old are the kids that can attend the summer program?
between the ages of 15 to 21. I'm actually
Same.
27.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually 27, so I'm no longer I guess a crew, or how would I say, I'm no longer a camper. I'm a senior crew member, so I taken on the responsibility of being sort of like a counselor to the new members, just somebody they can talk to.
That's
and stuff
wonderful.
like that.
Do you have, is it difficult to get kids to join Echoes of Incarceration? I don't know if you use the word join or attract kids to the group.
I wouldn't. I would say not really, because the Liberation Summer Camp started. I believe it started in 2014 or 15, and it's been going ever since. And every year it has a good amount of kids. So I wouldn't say attracting them is what's the hard part. It's just breaking that defensive barrier that all kids have at first. When they're in an environment that they're not so familiar with at first, they tend to have they tend to be just the nervousness of being in a place that you're not familiar with, or with kids that you're not familiar with, and you just heard little stories like, oh, well, you're going to be able to relate. At first, there's always going to be like that barrier of I don't know if I can fully be myself with you, but it's a safe environment, and we're all very understanding. We try to keep it as family orientated as possible. So I feel like at first it's hard to break through to some kids, because just some kids are more quiet than others. But once you successfully break through that barrier, that's it. The kid is fully, the child is fully involved, and we've had members of the Liberation Summer Camp keep coming back year after year, until they no longer feel like they want to be just a camper, and now they want to be part of the actual permanent crew. And again, the crew breaks into the new members that are joining every year, and then there's the senior crew members. So as I had mentioned, Karan and myself, we're part of the senior crew. We've been at it for years, but now within the course of the last 5-6 years, we've had a lot of new members that are now starting to join the permanent crew as well, and the numbers just keep growing. So
that is terrific. How big is the group, Stephen? I have no concept of how many young people are involved in Echoes of Incarceration.
Okay, so in Echoes of Incarceration, in the permanent crew as of right now, the senior crew is about a good 7 to 8 of us, including myself and the senior crew. That's including me and Karan. That's about 8 of us. And now within the new kids that have joined, there's about a good 5 or 6 new kids. And then the summer camp each year is about 20 to 30 kids every year.
I see. Oh, I thought it was much larger. Now, is it? Do they meet just kind of in one spot? Is it only one group that this is composed of, Echoes?
So the summer camp that they do, the Liberation Summer Camp, that's hand in hand with this organization called Americans Friends Service Committee, which is a Quaker organization.
Right.
And we worked hand in hand with them to create the Liberation Summer Camp. But they also